Hello everyone, my name is Wayne Supernova and welcome back to the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. In the last episode, we went to talk to Mr. Harebrayne and we got a card, we got a business card that he had of Mr. Enoch Drebber, the engineer, who apparently shot the balloon with a crossbow during the moment of the crime. But there was a stain with some very specific oil on the back of it, and Gina, who now has a police dog friend by the name of Toby, we had Toby sniff the back of the card, and we'll just hope that he finds something. But for now, we are going to investigate this scene and the rest of the stuff.
Here's the scorching on the ground that you mentioned.
Yes, and there's what's left of the green balloon's envelope. All clear evidence of the balloon that exploded on the day of the incident.
Poor Professor Harebrayne. I do feel sorry for him that his dreams have been shattered like this.
Someone's well and truly burst his bubble, as it were. Ouch. I'm a bad person. Wow, that's kind of funny, actually. Can my chair stop squeaking? Jesus Christ. Alright. I want to go in there.
What a shame that the symbolic landmark of the Great Exhibition has been damaged like that.
Yes, unfortunately the birdcage crashed in the most prominent position possible. It's the gods giving us a warning, if you ask me. Man must travel under his own steam and not cut corners with instantaneous kinesis.
But imagine what might have happened if the birdcage had landed in a slightly different location. The death toll could have been far worse. So I think perhaps it was a blessing in disguise.
Well, the gods are benevolent, obviously. I did say it was just a warning. Man must travel under his own steam, or next time bird cages will rain down on all of you.
Your faith is much stronger than I realized.
Well, how do you think I passed the entrance exam for Yume University? It wasn't by studying alone. So, it was by getting lucky. The stage up there is where the experiment was set up. It's very high, isn't it?
About 30 feet, I believe. Or 9 meters if you prefer. Craning your neck to see up to it starts to hurt after a while, doesn't it?
Yes, we need to get up there and look around properly. Although if I'm honest, climbing all those stairs makes my chest hurt.
Oh dear, I think perhaps you should exercise more, Mr. Naruhodo.
Yeah, you should definitely exercise more if that makes your chest hurt.
Ah, the Crystal Tower. I can't believe I'm seeing it at such close proximity with my own eyes.
You've really been looking forward to the Great Exhibition, haven't you, Miss Susato?
Oh yes, when I found out that I had to return to Japan, I'm afraid I cursed my luck.
But here you are, back in London, gazing up at the magnificent tower.
I know. Perhaps I was wrong to curse my luck so harshly.
I don't know, we'll find out. But it looks like that's it for now. I mean, I can't go up. So I suppose there's nothing else to converse about, right? Okay. So I suppose the next place we need to go is the Lord Chief Justice's office to try and get permission to investigate. Oh? Who are you? Oh, who's that standing beside Lord Strongheart?
I wonder. I've never seen her before.
Ah, the young champion of the court. You had some success this morning, I understand. And you've thrown the entire government into disarray as a result.
Oh! You mean because of Professor Harebrayne's experiment?
Sham science being demonstrated at London's great exhibition. The country's been made to look foolish, and now politicians are scrabbling to respond. Lord Van Zeeks is in Whitehall as we speak, giving an emergency briefing.
Oh dear. I didn't mean to cause any trouble.
None of this is your responsibility. The government is entirely to blame for having been taken in. The special dispensation that prevents investigation at the scene will be annulled later today. Once that happens, my forensic investigation team will move in and deal with that scrap metal in no time.
It's scrap metal now, is it? What voice do I want to give you?
Until later then, Lord Strongheart.
Yes, thank you.
She's got the same sort of badge I saw. I was trying to look at like details on her character design for the small amount of time that she was on screen, but I did notice that that sort of cross shape is very similar to, I believe, the prosecutorial badge. So maybe that's something. Who was that?
That was Dr. Courtney Scythe.
Or Sith? I mean, Sith would be really... It would be just straight up, oh, hey, they're evil. But I'm going to go with Scythe. Because, like, it's written the same way that the word lithe is. And I believe it's pronounced lithe, not lith. Maybe I'm wrong. I'll have to look that up.
That was Dr. Courtney Scythe, Scotland Yard's esteemed chief coroner.
Oh, she's the coroner.
She's leading the forensic investigation team's handling of this case. She was just delivering her report about the victim, in fact.
Oh, I see. About Mr. Asman.
Following the outcome of the trial earlier, I asked the coroner's office to reevaluate its findings. I don't have time to tell you what she concluded. If you want to know, you'll have to ask her directly. You can find her in the forensics laboratory.
Ah, right.
Now, what were you here to see me about? I can give you 7 minutes and 39 seconds of my time.
So he's not running quite so spectacularly late in it anymore. What exactly is the forensic investigation team that you mentioned before?
The British Empire's police force must become the most exemplary in the world. For that to happen, it's imperative that we embrace forensic science and everything it has to offer. I first created the forensic investigation team a year ago now, unofficially of course, to pave the way.
Goodness, a year ago?
At next month's symposium, I intend to present the results of their work to the world. Once I do that, the House of Lords will be powerless to oppose the creation of a full-scale forensics division. And once that happens, the position of Attorney General will be mine, and criminals will suffer dearly.
What do you mean?
For too long, those scoundrels have made a mockery of our legal system with false evidence and bribes. But London's scum is about to be rounded up and burnt in the fires of hell. I intend to see it personally.
So he's like an evil paladin if he was playing... D&D. He's like a lawful evil paladin.
By creating the finest police force the world has ever known, to protect our honor and our future.
Look at those eyes. He means every word.
Dr. Scythe is an extremely reliable coroner. When I officially establish the forensics division at Scotland Yard, she will run it as my right-hand woman. Now then, speaking of the symposium, Miss Mikotoba.
Oh, yes, my lord.
Your father should be on the high seas as we speak, making his way here to represent the Empire of Japan.
Yes, that's right. I understand he will arrive at the beginning of next month.
Are you acquainted, Lord Strongheart? With Professor Mikotoba, I mean.
It was many years ago now, but yes, I remember Dr. Mikotoba very well.
Thought so. If my memory serves... Oh, wrong person.
If my memory serves, it was some 15 years ago now that your father came to Britain as a visiting student.
It was the year I was born, so yes, 16 years ago in fact.
Mikotoba was a young practitioner of forensic science, and Jigoku accompanied him as a young promising judge. The punctiliousness and politeness of the Japanese at the time impressed us greatly.
I forgot to turn that off again.
Not that I wish to imply impoliteness or carelessness on your part in any way.
I didn't think that you were.
Dr. Mikotoba studied forensics at one of London's large hospitals. St.
Sinners, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh boy. Dr. Scythe was also there then, as it happens.
Then Dr. Scythe knows my father, does she?
She was a young medical assistant at the time, so I doubt their paths crossed regularly. But I've no doubt that they knew each other superficially. After all, Dr. Mikotoba was studying his subject for some 6 years in total.
6 years? That's a long time to be studying abroad, isn't it? I lived with my grandmother in those years.
So he left his newly born daughter behind and went overseas for 6 years. Yeah, he pretty much was just like, alright, did you come out okay? Good, fuck off. And just went over and, like, the whole developmental period of her childhood was not spent with her father. I kind of fucking hate that. I kind of despise him now.
It was a rather turbulent time at home.
Oh.
Perhaps Father wanted a reason to get away.
What do you mean? Why? Well, clearly something was going on at the time. What is that about secrets, Susato? I wanted to ask you about Lord Van Zieks, actually. I heard that his older brother was killed some years ago by a mass murderer known as the Professor, who targeted nobles and royalty. Is that right?
You Japanese are a thorough lot. You've done your research well. Yes. And you could say it was that very incident that gave rise to the Reaper.
What? Why? Well, I assume that.
When his brother Clint Van Zieks was murdered, it was just after young Barrack had graduated from the University of London and become a prosecutor. When obvious criminals who managed to evade conviction in court start disappearing, rumors quickly spread through the capital. Londoners started to say that wherever Barrack went, the ghost of his dead brother wasn't far behind.
Oh my word.
So, Lord Van Zieks isn't the Reaper, it's the ghost of his brother? Come on.
Ever since that time, he became a very aloof figure in London's legal circles.
Oh, yes, Lord Stronhart.
Go ahead.
It's about Professor Harebrain's experimental machine. We'd like your permission to examine the remains, if possible.
Are you well versed in science, then?
Not in the slightest. In fact, you could say I was barely aware of the subject at all until recently.
Well, the special dispensation legally preventing investigation of the machine is currently being annulled. Within a few hours, Dr. Sai's team of forensic experts will begin their own investigation. But I suppose until then, there's no harm in you looking at the wreckage, as long as you touch nothing.
Thank you. Being able to look at it is better than nothing.
And I'll be able to see it too.
Your time is up. You'll have to excuse me now, I'm afraid. My next engagement calls.
We are extremely sorry to have troubled you when you are so busy, my lord.
I have important matters to attend to in preparation for the symposium, you understand.
See ya. We shall see how you really fit in with all this. Do we go to the forensics lab first or back to the stage? I say we go back to the stage first. This might be a bad idea. Oops, wrong thing. I forgot that I have to examine the staircase in order to go up.
Oi! That's off limits up there! Try to sneak past me again and I'll stuff your gob full of the boss's fish and chips!
Yes, please. I love fish and chips. I suppose we need special permission. We did get special permission. What the fuck? Ah, okay. Gina. We were actually hoping that we could investigate the scene again.
Yeah, alright. If it's around here, you can do what you like.
Oh, that's alright, is it?
I'm gonna be playing with me new friend here.
Ah, yes, Toby.
The machine that exploded must be at the top of those stairs, I presume. I haven't actually seen it yet, so if you don't mind... Sorry, you can't go up there, Suze. Oh!
This is the same dialogue.
It's like I told Otto yesterday. Even I ain't allowed near that wreck. What's it called again? The reason we ain't supposed to...
Yeah, we already read this. Yeah, this is a long... We actually did.
Actually, we've just recently been to see Lord Strongheart. Eh? You what? You met him? The last time the boss was called to go and see him. He waited for 3 hours at the Cove's office and came back sniveling.
Tragic.
Well, Lord Strongheart has given us permission to examine the scene as long as we touch nothing. Oh yeah?
Honestly.
Alright then, go ahead. But if it turns out you're lying, it'll be the boss who gets it. He'll never eat another chip again in his life. So, you're still saying all this is above board, are you? I'm sure everything will be fine.
That really would be tragic.
Alright then, them's the stairs. Off you go. Oh, thank you, Gina. Right then, Otto, leave it to me.
Sorry?
We're gonna get going after that dodgy engineer cove right this minute.
I was gonna say.
Oh, but hang on. Someone's supposed to be on guard duty here all the time.
I'm afraid we can't help. We need to get on with our investigation as well, Gina.
Oh, right. Oh well, never mind. It ain't gonna be me what gets it in the neck. It'll be the boss.
Poor Gregson again.
Ready, Toby? Got that oil scent, have you? Come on then, boy. See you later. I do hope the scent of that oil leads them to that swindler's workshop.
Yes, I hope so too. Ideally before the dog swims across the Channel to France. Oh boy. Alright, so let's... Yeah, let's, we have to examine the staircase to go up. These stairs lead up to the experimentation stage. Let's go and see what we can find out. Oh, the cage is up here now. And why is it smoking now?
Oh my! So this is the machine that was used to deceive people into thinking instantaneous kinesis had taken place.
Yes, that's right. Or rather, it was the machine. It's a little worse for wear at the moment.
What extraordinary lengths Professor Harebrain went to in order to obtain the research grant.
No. The professor was tricked as well. He didn't know anything about it.
Yes, of course. It is amazing though, isn't it? The scale of the whole affair is so very British.
You're right about that. You'd never see such a grand deception in Japan, that's for sure.
Oh look, is that?
Oh, it was Van Zieks is here. Von Zieks.
Lord Von Zieks.
So, I think we're more or less done here, aren't we? Shall we, Miss Usato?
Already?
He is the Reaper, remember? We do well to keep our distance, I think.
But we have permission to be here, from the top. We're perfectly well allowed to investigate this machine, as long as we don't touch anything.
From the top? Do you mean Lord Strongheart?
Exactly. So we can stay here and stare at this wreckage for as long as we like.
She could have been at the center of the explosion here and it wouldn't have bent her steel well. I suppose that's true. Well, time to examine things. So that's... I can't really look at anything other than the machine itself and the cage, I think. This wasn't here yesterday.
Really? But if I'm not mistaken, it's the cage in which the victim was standing before he was apparently beamed through the air.
That's right, the bird cage. According to what Professor Harebrained said in court, it's made of wood.
Or more precisely, Japanese cypress, I think. And despite having been in an explosion and then falling from a great height, it's relatively unharmed. What wonderfully durable construction, wouldn't you say, Mr. Naruhodo?
I'd understood that the forensic investigation team had taken it away yesterday to examine it. I suppose they must have brought it back here when they'd finished their work.
But sadly, not with the body inside it.
I would hope not. Ugh. Sorry, had to yawn. No, that's right. I know we were given strict instructions not to touch anything, but still. This is too important a piece of evidence to overlook. We might need it for the trial. Oh, do I get to examine it in the court record? Well, let's go ahead and do that. Alright. So what is this on the bottom? I always check the bottom of things first, because they love to hide things on the bottom. Ah, look here, Miss Susato.
Oh yes, the wood's cracked and broken a little. I suppose because it fell from such a height?
Yes, from the height at which the balloon was flying, down into the crystal tower below. A fall of about 30 feet, or 9 meters.
Leaving the man inside tragically dead.
Ooh, that's interesting. So it caused damage to its base, right? If that's so, how did his neck get broken? Right? Because you were thinking that the fall broke his neck. But it looks like it would be impossible for the fall to have broken his neck if he was inside this bird cage, especially if it landed on the bottom. I'm just trying to maneuver my thing around and look at everything. It looks like I've checked everything. Because that's damage to the base, right? Interesting. Okay, well, I think that's it for that one. So I guess we just look at the machine and then look up.
What a terrible explosion it must have been. Even the steel girders have buckled and twisted in the blast.
And what they called the birdcage was right in the middle of it all, just here.
But look, Mr. Naruhodo, that metal grill on the floor. Looks as though it's designed to open.
It does, doesn't it? If the floor had opened at the precise moment the explosion occurred, the birdcage could have dropped through and disappeared from sight. That's true.
I don't think there's any doubt that this was a very elaborate hoax, is there? Look at that horn-shaped transmitting device. Isn't it amazing?
That's exactly what I thought when I first saw it.
It makes you think, doesn't it? If only it had just been a normal horn, none of this would have happened.
That's almost exactly what I thought as well. Bet I can predict what you're going to say next in that case. You're about to say, nothing ever goes to plan, aren't you?
Oh no, I would never say something like that.
Okay. I thought there was going to be another line there. Oh, I can check the balloons. However much I look at them, I just can't come to terms with those Temari handballs floating in the sky.
You've been glaring at them constantly since we came up here.
Sorry, the feelings of wanting to ride in one and wanting to never set foot in one are fighting it out inside me.
But if you don't look where you're walking, you might fall from the stage.
I don't think I'd notice. That's how fiercely the battle inside me is raging.
I think you should make peace with riding in one, Mr. Naruhodo. It really would be much safer that way.
Interesting that you can click on any of them. Oh, I probably want to move the... Yeah, probably want to move it down. She hasn't looked at the Ferris wheel yet.
I hear that a ride on the Ferris wheel is a favorite romantic outing among young London couples.
I think the romance would be slightly spoilt by the abject terror personally, but then again, I'm not a Londoner.
Are you a little scared of heights, Mr. Naruhodo?
It's not that I'm scared, not at all. It's just that staying on the ground seems so much safer.
Well, perhaps I shall have to ask Iris and Mr. Sholmes to accompany on it in that case.
When you put it like that, part of me does want to give it a try. Aw.
Oh dear, it is complicated for you, isn't it?
The music just stops. Ugh. Least approachable man in the world winner 10 years in a row. Damn, too soon.
Be strong, Mr. Naruhodo. Your country and your assistant stand firm behind you.
Lord Van Zieks. What?
Well, beautiful weather we're having, hasn't it?
He does not seem one for small talk. I thought I was making it quite clear that I didn't want to be disturbed. Apparently, you Nipponese are unequipped to read the signs. Oh, I read them. So, what are you doing here? Entry to this area is prohibited.
Well, the thing is... Lord Chief Justice Strongheart granted us permission to investigate, on the condition that we didn't disturb anything.
And yet you've managed to disturb me.
I was expecting that line. I was so expecting that line.
Never mind. State your business then. Come to think of it, there are quite a few things I'd like to ask Lord Van Zieks about. Not least of which is that awful case, even though it's nothing to do with this.
Ask away, Mr. Naruhodo. You won't know unless you try.
Hey yo, so how was your brother killed? That's not how you start it. So, Clint was the name of your older brother, I understand, Lord Van Zieks. You Nipponese, I always have to be on guard whenever you're around. So, you've been investigating me, have you? Oh, no, it's not like that. Well, alright, it is a bit like that. My older brother was also a prosecutor. He was the pride of the Van Zieks family. But tragically, a vicious killer took him from us. The professor, you mean? Is something funny? That's the extent of what you've discovered, is it? I shouldn't be surprised. Sorry? There's more to it then. Lackluster work is very much your trademark, isn't it? Ugh, you're too kind. Are you going to tar all Nipponese with the same brush next? So tell me, what's your interest in that historic incident?
As it happens, Lord Van Zieks, there is a rather curious case that's come to our attention. Are you aware of the Madame Tuspel's Museum of Waxwork by any chance?
I am, naturally. I believe that since last month I feature in one of the displays there, for public scorn. Of course, the infamous Reaper of the Bailey would have to be exhibited, wouldn't he?
Well, a particular waxwork has been stolen from the place and held for ransom.
A particular waxwork? Which... Wait, you mean... Yes, it's the professor. Mr. Sholmes is investigating the case as we speak. I was unaware of that. He's turned as white as a sheet. Are the police trying to locate the engineer, Mr. Drebber, already? Surely that goes without saying. We're very keen to see him found as well. The trouble is, we don't have much to go on aside from the description of the man we heard in court earlier.
Which, according to Professor Harebrain... was of a tall, thin gentleman who has straight white hair and wears a black monocle.
So, I was just wondering, I mean, I realize it's probably not possible, but,
We'd very much appreciate any more clues you can give us.
wow, Susato-san really knows how to take the bull by the horns. Fine, why not? I have a photograph of the man here from an investigation 10 years ago.
Interesting.
Though it appears he already had the black monocle at that time. What?
Oh, no, nothing. I was just surprised that you shared that with us.
We all need the man's testimony in court tomorrow, which means we have to do everything we possibly can to track him down in a short time available. So why wouldn't I show you the photograph?
What is it about Lord Van Zieks? Sometimes I just can't work him out at all. Interesting. Ah, his protege.
Ah, the file I requested for the trial tomorrow. Thank you.
Are you alright? Who is this man, Mr. Naruhodo?
This is Kazuma, isn't it? This is Kazuma. It would be weird if he wasn't dead, but could be Kazuma. Considering Susato's reaction. Okay. Lord Van Ziek's apprentice, apparently. So I'm not the only one. Susato-san can see it too.
Lord Van Zieks, may we speak with your apprentice for a moment?
With him? Why?
Kazuma-sama!
Kazuma?
I don't believe it!
Your posture, your presence. It can only be. It's you, isn't it, Kazuma-sama?
I felt something strange the very first time I encountered this cloaked figure. As if I knew him somehow. Can it really be you, Kazuma? Wait! Too late.
What's going on here?
Oh boy.
What is your interest in my apprentice exactly? You act as if you know the man or something.
Well,
Since when has he been in your care? I don't recall you having an apprentice before I left Britain since 6 months ago.
Lord Stronhart introduced him to me about 3 months ago now, with instructions to mentor him as a prosecutor.
but he didn't tell you why, did he?
The man appears to be suffering from amnesia.
Oh god, really?
He's forgotten every last detail about himself.
He has amnesia.
Tomorrow he will appear in court at my side.
What?
He's to serve as my judicial assistant, on Lord Stronhart's orders.
He'll be in court with us? Why is Lord Stronhart putting... Oh god. Too much going on right now.
Now then, unless I'm much mistaken, I believe this conversation has run its course.
Oh, Yes, thank you. Definitely saw a reaction there. My mind is racing too much, and I'm not even, like, thinking about the words. When Susato-san called it out like that, it really seemed to hit a nerve. When she called out Kazuma-sama.
You'd already met that masked man, hadn't you, Mr. Naruhodo?
Yes, yesterday, in fact, at Lord Van Zieks' office.
I see. And if Kazuma-sama really is still alive, it means that Mr. Sholmes lied to us.
I know. We're going to need to speak to him about that. You're going to have to leave now. The forensic investigation team are due to arrive shortly. If they find you here, it will cause problems. What sort of problems?
Foreign affairs problems.
Well, we could do without that. Alright, we'll be on our way. Let's go, Miss Susato.
Of course.
What the fuck is going on in this game so far? And it's only gonna get weirder. This reminds me somewhat of the back room at the pawnbrokery at the end of the last game. I believe this is it. Dr. Sai's laboratory. It looks like a dungeon. I love it. That chemical smell really assaults the nose, and there's plenty to assault the eyes in here, too. I wouldn't hate being in this room, but I don't think I care much for the medical tools over on the side. Just, like, keep everything else.
It looks as though the doctor isn't here. But we're here now, so we may as well do some sightseeing, don't you think?
What a seasoned tourist you've become, Miss Susato. We could just have a little look around, being careful not to upset any restless souls. Okay. Then I guess we will pry into their belongings without even meeting them. Look at all the bottles on the shelves in these cabinets. What an assortment of chemicals.
These ones here are labeled highly toxic.
That's worrying, because there are also things that look like salt and pepper shakers in there.
Oh, yes, and they actually say salt and pepper on them. The doctor probably spends a lot of time in this room, I suppose. Perhaps she has meals here sometimes.
Life goes on, even when you're surrounded by death. Suppose that's true. What's up here? Those large jars seem to have pale things floating around inside them. I suppose they're fruit liquors or something? Nope. Nope. Those are probably body parts. Or like the pickled umeboshi plums we make back home.
Ah, Father had jars like that in his lap as well. I expect they're human organs in a preserving solution, probably as examples of some rare medical condition.
Miss Susato, there are some things in the world that it's perfectly fine never to know about. Ever.
Oh. So as I said, I'm sure they're fruit liquors or umeboshi, aren't they? Of course.
A table and a set of sharp tools. When you consider each in isolation, it all looks quite innocent. So why is it that when you put them side by side, they seem so horribly disturbing?
It might be best not to ponder it too deeply. Seeing the large tome that's open on the desk does make me wonder, though. How can anybody concentrate on bookwork with this acrid odor of chemicals in the air?
You'd either have to have a cast iron constitution, or a really terrible sense of smell. Yeah, your sense of smell would definitely be dimmed being in this room all the time. So maybe that's like a weakness of hers, if she ever becomes a criminal that we can take advantage of. Well, look at this! What a magnificent display case! The cherry wood has been polished to a high sheen, and the intricate carving is a joy to behold. Western cabinet makers really are very skilled, aren't they?
Do you have nothing to say about the skeleton inside, Mr. Naruhodo? Miss Susato, can't you tell that I'm trying very hard to avoid talking about the terrifying contents of the case? It's how I cope! Cope harder. I'll be sure to remember that from now on. I want to talk about the little animals on top, though. That looks like an owl and a crow up there. I know, and they haven't even twitched since we came in here. Well, no, they wouldn't have. They're taxidermy mounts, Mr. Naruhodo. Ugh, I was afraid you were going to say that. I've never been trying very hard to tell myself they're just sleeping with their eyes open. Oh, I've been trying. Yes, I think perhaps you were wise to put something like your Daruma doll on display in the office instead. Yeah. Naruhodo seems very prim and proper compared to this. I suppose this is Dr. Sai's desk. Ugh, I would not like to work in a place like this. It's very tidy though, isn't it, Mr. Naruhodo? Imagine how efficiently she must work. The lighting is poor, which is bad for the eyes, and the chemical smell can't be good for you. Not to mention the skeleton watching over you as you work, which is definitely bad for the nerves. Not if you name him like Harold or something, or Weiss, like I named my skeleton. I have a plastic skeleton. Well, yes, there are valid concerns, I suppose. I can just about cope with a one-eyed Daruma doll watching over me, but that's all. That's a little worrying. Alright. Look at this big, thick book here. Ah, it appears to be an accounting ledger. It's a record of the forensic investigation team's spending, I think. Oh? What is it? It's clear that the team purchases various equipment and supplies on a monthly basis, but... well, one entry seems rather strange. Is it the Japanese wood? Really? In what way? They're buying 500 scalpels every month! 500? They must be working really hard on dissecting corpses. I don't know. Judicial autopsies are only carried out in special circumstances. And scalpel blades can be sharpened too. It does seem a bit strange, you're right. 500 scalpels a month? What could they possibly be using all of them for? I don't know. It's a little interesting, isn't it? What voice was I giving her again? What are you... No. Hell no. What are you doing? Ah! Sorry, we, had something we wanted to ask you, but you weren't here, so... So you thought you'd snoop around? That's acceptable to you people from the East, is it? Well, what do you want? Lord Strongheart told us, you see, that it was you who examined the victim's body. Mr. Asmon's body, I mean. So we came to ask you about your findings, on Lord Strongheart's advice. Very well. If the Lord Chief Justice has given his consent, I'll tell you what our investigation revealed. But when we're done, you must leave immediately. That's not what I meant to do. Examine, converse, your findings, please. So, you want to know what the forensic investigation team determined from its examination of the scene. The victim, Mr. Odi Asmon, who disappeared from the experimentation stage amid an explosion, and the Mr. Asmon who appeared moments later partway up the Crystal Tower, were without question one and the same person. That is the team's conclusion. But that can't be right. If it was an elaborate trick, we can only speculate about how it was carried out. Let's see, if two people who looked very similar to each other were involved, they could have made it appear as if one single person had switched places, wouldn't they? Couldn't they? Very true, but sadly in this instance, that was not the case. The man who disappeared and the man who subsequently reappeared was the same person. The fingerprints at the scene make that quite evident. Ah, fingerprints. They're not yet officially recognized as forensic evidence in the British justice system. But one day, they will be used as an investigative aid as a matter of course. Oh my, but that would mean that the instantaneous kinesis actually took place. So, where does that leave us? My team was tasked with investigating, not drawing conclusions.
Instantaneous kinesis is impossible, and yet the body did move from one place to the other. This hasn't cleared anything up at all. It's made the whole thing even more of a mystery. Very true. Very, very true. Whoa. Who are you? Oh, daughter? What voice do I give you?
Mama, what is this?
Ah, where did she spring up from? And did she just call the doctor Mama?
This is a lawyer, dear. Oh.
Hello. To meet you. Pleased to meet you. Yes, I'm a defense lawyer. Ryunosuke no...
Mama,
Yes?
can I cut this one up?
What?
I've never seen inside an Eastern person before. I want to know what it looks like.
Of course you can't. It's a live specimen, as you can very well see.
Boring.
I think I just had a near-death experience.
Oh dear, Mr. Naruhodo, you're as pale as a corpse.
Then let's leave before I'm mistaken for one. Well, I think we've done all the investigating we can here for now. If we could just determine the whereabouts of Mr. Trevor, I'm sure Gina and little Toby won't let us down.
Now then, do you think we ought to try to speak with Mr. Sholmes at this point? We have things to discuss and I'm dying to meet him again after all these months.
Yes, it's quite possible he might know something useful. You're right. We have to find him at Madame Tuspel's. He's supposed to be working there as a temporary waxwork exhibit.
Yes, Iris told me all about his latest unusual venture.
Okay then. That was something. I will work on their voices, because my repertoire for female voices isn't that big, of course, considering I'm a guy, so there's a lot of female characters in this game now. Take a drink. Get my voice a little bit of a rest.
Here we are again at the House of Horrors. I'm afraid I haven't gotten used to the place yet. I'd still like to turn on my heels and go straight home, via the confectionery, of course.
Susato-san really is after something sweet today, isn't she?
Eek!
What's the matter?
Look, Mr. Naruhodo, look at that waxwork. I'm quite sure it wasn't there before.
Yep, he's doing his job.
It looks exactly like Mr. Sholmes down to the very last detail.
Aha!
What is it?
Oh, sorry. I think you'll find that's the temporary waxwork himself.
Ah, the friend of my dedicated employee.
Oh, yes. Hello again. It's Ryunosuke. Ryunosuke Naruhodo.
I must say, I am quite spellbound by the great detective. He is a marvel. My precious waxwork is already back where it belongs.
You don't mean?
But yes, the mystery is solved already.
Wow. Mr. Sholmes can really engage his brain when he's hungry enough.
So as you can see, he has returned to his habitual duties.
Yes.
His habitual duties? Alors, do not disturb, huh?
Poor Susato-san. She looks very perplexed. So I suppose we will be talking to Miss Tuspel's. Or maybe we can actually go look at this now. Ah, yes, the heavy curtains in the middle of the House of Horrors. Whatever's on the other side of them, you just know it's going to be terrifying, don't you?
The sign says it's the Madame Tuspel's special exhibit. It seems you have to pay extra to go inside.
I know, can you believe that? Pay more money, as if we haven't been scared enough already.
It's not my doing, Mr. Naruhodo.
I want to see the professor. I want to know what he looks like.
We really do need to speak with Mr. Sholmes, and I am longing to say hello again. But where is he?
He's shadowboxing in the back. I think you might find that he's quite nearby, actually.
Oh! What are you...
Indeed, my dear fellows, it is I! The world-famous great detective in waxwork, Herlock Sholmes! No! Not Susato! Susato-san! Susato-san! I was expecting her to, like, reflexively throw him, but she passed out. My most humble apologies.
I thought I'd died and gone to eternal paradise for a moment, via London.
My dear madam, allow me to make amends by offering you a tasty free deduction at some point. As long as it's not of questionable street food quality.
I don't understand. Why are you working as a waxwork here, Mr. Sholmes?
Merely a secret identity, you understand? Though the case is largely solved now.
Largely solved?
We're talking about the waxwork abduction, I presume. Indeed we are, my good fellow. As I predicted, it was as easy as proverbial pie. Though I confess, I'm yet to partake of a pie, proverbial or otherwise. Or any food so far today, for that matter. That stomach rumble echoed around the whole museum. So, how did you manage to solve it so quickly? Ah, well, do remember I said it was largely solved. Anyway, I simply negotiated with the culprit. Are you familiar with the so-called telephone?
Oh yes, it's a most modern invention, allowing you to hold a conversation with people far away. In Japan, only the imperial capital and a handful of other cities are connected as yet.
This morning, a telephone call was received here from the perpetrator of the abduction. As such, I was able to negotiate terms, and in the end, the waxwork was returned. That's amazing. Just between you and I. It would appear the culprit had always intended to return the stolen waxwork in any event.
Oh, but I thought whoever was responsible had demanded a ransom, no?
Yes, I think perhaps the ransom demand was necessary to avoid unwanted suspicion regarding the true motive.
But does that not mean your negotiating was entirely unnecessary?
A fact that I must ask you to keep from Madame Tuspel's at all cost. A hungry young Iris awaits my return to Baker Street, after all. Poor Iris. Now then, do I sense that you have some business with this great waxwork? I do, in fact, but I'm not doing that. I need to talk to you first. We're in the process of trying to track somebody down. Oh?
Yes, a man by the name of Enoch Drebber. He's the swindler who duped Professor Harebrain and the engineer who built the kinesis machine.
A swindler and an engineer. Quite the modern man. He also seems to be a conjurer of sorts, too, with considerable knowledge of stage magic. We really need to locate him before the trial resumes tomorrow morning. But we have so few clues to go on, that's the trouble. Do you have any good ideas? I have no data yet. It is a capital mistake to have good ideas before one has data. If I knew something of the man's appearance, at least, I may be in a better position to help. Yes, Drebber's appearance. Fortunately for you, however, presently I have little to occupy myself and little to fill my stomach. As soon as you find any clue, no matter how small, I shall gladly give you my thoughts on it. Okay. We'll talk about Kazuma's death in a minute. First, let's actually go over this. Mr. Sholmes, would you cast your eyes over this photographic print?
It's of Mr. Enoch Drebber, the face of the engineer we seek.
Well, all Englishmen look broadly the same, of course, so looking at the photograph won't be particularly instructive.
Are you alright, Mr. Sholmes?
Ah, yes, forgive me. Very interesting this, very interesting indeed.
What's wrong, Mr. Sholmes? You've turned quite pale all of a sudden.
He's not going to tell us until we talk about this, huh? Mr. Sholmes, did you lie to us?
My dear Mr. Naruhodo, stay that piercing stare. What is this about?
Last winter, when we were first on our way to Britain aboard the steamship, your words were very clear.
So then, let us unravel this mystery, and discover what events led to this curious murder.
You told us that it was murder, and you examined Kazuma-sama's body.
Indeed, and wherein lies the problem? We met him earlier today. The victim, Kazuma Asogi. You're quite sure?
He was wearing some sort of mask and was apparently suffering from amnesia. But yes, I'm quite sure. It was Kazuma-sama. You must have known at the time, Mr. Sholmes, that he wasn't actually dead.
Well, I can only assume I was swept up in the murderous atmosphere of the moment. But the fellow wasn't dead at all. Priceless. I don't suppose that performance would pass muster, would it, Mr. Naruhodo? I could believe that the crewmen present at the time made a mistake, but not you, Mr. Sholmes. I will now tell you something of the first importance, my dear fellow. Great detectives are wont to lie. It will serve you well to remember that. Please, Mr. Sholmes. Tomorrow in court, you will find yourself on the threshold of a very great mystery. For now, I'm afraid that is all I can say. I have a suggestion, Mr. Naruhodo. Will you indulge me?
Oh, well, what is it?
As I explained to you when you arrived, the missing waxwork has been returned, and I personally reinstalled it in the exhibit from which it was taken, behind those thick curtains.
Oh yes, the Professor exhibit, is it?
Would you like to see it? For a mere 5 shillings? That's a special one-time only price, you understand.
What?
The opportunity won't come again, I might add. Wouldn't you like to see the fruits of my labor?
Oh, well, we do have a rather pressing investigation to carry out. Perhaps we could postpone?
The price is a very reasonable 5 shillings. I think you'll find it's well worth it.
Are you being quite serious, Mr. Sholmes?
Surely you need only look at my expression to ascertain if this is seriousness or silliness. I can never tell with you, that's the point.
Very well, it couldn't hurt. Here's your 5 shillings.
Rightfully received. So, the special exhibit waits behind the curtain. I invite you to peruse it at your leisure.
Well, the money's been well spent, though. Well, the money's been spent, so let's go and see the special exhibit.
Why not? Through those heavy curtains at last. Here we go. 5 shillings we've had to pay. Doesn't seem right that somehow Mr. Sholmes slipped the money into his own pocket, does it?
No. Ah, we could ask Gina to retrieve it for us, using her special skills.
Pickpocketing police officers and diddling detectives. Is this what makes Britain great? Not to mention demigod prosecutors taking the law into their own hands, or chip-loving inspectors.
Inspector Gregson comes off rather well in that list, I think.
I agree. Kind of like the donut-loving policeman stereotype, except this time it's a chip-loving prosecutor. You know what? We're at the 1 hour mark. I'm going to leave you guys off on a cliffhanger this time. We are going to visit the special exhibit next time. This episode... Oh, fucking hell. Oh, there's too much going on. There are too many mysteries. Too many mysteries in my mystery game. But I'm having a blast. I really am having a blast. This is definitely shaping up to be one of my favorite Ace Attorney games of all time. So, yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to the next part. And I hope you are too, because it's going to come out the day after this one. So, yeah, tune in for that. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you guys for watching. Bye-bye.